Welcome to the Tenet Podcast. I'm Todd Pearson, and coming to you from the Road of Enchantment in Rapid City, South Dakota, my friend, my partner, you know him as quite possibly the most interesting man in the world, the one and only Wes Brown.
Oh my God, Todd, it's a new year. Holy smokes. Where did 2022 go? It just like poof, it was gone.
I know, man.
Amazing.
I'm ready to close the door on 2022.
And I just want to get one thing clear. We're still spanning the globe, right? Just because I was expecting that one.
I want to keep you on your toes as we're switching to the weekly again.
Oh my God, that's right.
Yeah. Exciting stuff. We're ready to rock and roll. You ready? You buckled up?
I am. I got my seatbelt cinched tight. I'm ready for anything to happen.
Fantastic. Because it's going to be a whirlwind.
Or in this case, I might have the cinch on my saddle tightened up really tight. I'm going to go through some rough terrain. So I cinch down tight.
I like that. You're going to go galloping into 2023.
That's right. Hard.
Teeth rattling.
Yep.
Your jaw bumping up and down. Your lower jaw. Yeah. Yep.
That's the way it's going to be.
All right, man.
So back in the day when I was doing horses, you'd cinch up the saddle, right? And then you'd ride a little bit because sometimes they'd suck air in and that would loosen. So then you'd let them breathe in a little bit and then you'd cinch it a little tighter just to keep the saddle on.
You ever flipped underneath the horse?
I have not. I've been booted off a horse a couple times.
Yeah. Have you ever seen anybody do that?
Like just spin? Straight up, on cartoons.
They don't let you ride horses if somebody sees that happening, right?
That's right.
Like, you're done.
You're done.
No more horses for you.
That's right. Anyway, now we totally derailed.
I know. Already. 2023, we're already just
man,
down
it's going to be a long year for people.
Well, we're happy people are tuning in. We're excited for this new year. I'm looking forward to the interviews that we have coming up, not only this month, but some stuff we have lined up in February and March already. So let's get off to the races here.
Let's do it.
All right. Before we get started today, just a quick reminder, you can still catch West by Midwest, a Tenet podcast showcase presented by Bit Factory Gallery, featuring the paintings of Shannon Mello, Megan Wilbar, and Mark Zimmerman through the 12th of January. Come out tomorrow night for First Friday and check out the beautiful work of these three artists, and then come back Saturday evening, January 7th at 7 p.m., and we will have an artist talk with all three of these artists. And Bit Factory Gallery, if you're not familiar with it, is located at 851 Santa Fe Drive in Denver, right here in the heart of the Art District on Santa Fe. Come on out. It's going to be a great time, and Wes is going to be in town, so we hope to see you all there.
Yeah, so if you need a little more incentive, come and see me. I'll make you smile.
And Wes is a hugger, so hugs all the way around.
Love hugs.
I'll fist bump you. Wes will give you the hug.
So you're not a hugger?
Yeah, I need that T-shirt. I've said it before, but I do need that T-shirt, not a hugger.
Good to know.
All right. We're starting the year off with a bang. We're excited to talk with this week's guest. She's someone that we've wanted to have on for quite some time. You can see her work at our website at jillsoukup.com. That's JILLSOUKUP. And you can catch some of her work in person starting this coming weekend at the Coors Western Art Exhibit and Sale. Welcome to the program, Jill. How are you?
Happy to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
It's been a while. We have talked multiple times over the course of probably a good year and a half, maybe 2 years, about having you on. And we've never been able to line up schedules. So I'm so happy you were willing to do a Zoom with us this evening as opposed to the in-person stuff, which I'd still love to come see your studio at some point.
Yeah, you're welcome anytime, both of you.
Right on. I will take you up on that offer.
Okay. Great.
I want to start off by talking about you and your youth. As with a lot of artists, you started your journey with art at an early age, correct?
That's correct. Yeah.
About how old were you when you really kind of got the art bug and were on your started your art journey?
I'd say as early as I could pick up a pencil for the most part.
Wow.
It diverged a little bit. I contemplated being a vet, or at one point I wanted to be a host of like a horse riding outfit. I wanted to own a pet shop, but mostly all animal related careers. But the core was always art.
Did you have other artists in your family? Were your parents artists or anything like that?
No. So my mom was a creative person, but she never pursued any kind of career, or even really her hobbies weren't really focused on any kind of long-term art goals or creative goals.
But very encouraging, I take it, since you started so young and you've had this illustrious career thus far.
Yes, a lots of support. They always encouraged it. And my dad is a vet, but he was the one that supplied me with a lot of the art books and such that heavily influenced my skill sets.
Where did you grow up, Jill?
Colorado.
Oh, whereabouts?
I was most of my childhood was in Aurora, Colorado.
Okay.
And then
So was he a large animal vet or a small animal vet?
no, small. He had a bad experience with a horse during vet school, and that was the end of any possibility of him helping out the bigger animals.
Is that where you get your love of animals because your dad was a veterinarian?
I don't know. I sort of think that's one of those things that's just sort of innate in people.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
I think it's sort of a lot of kids too seem to have an affinity for animals, and some grow out of it and some stick with it. But certainly, his interaction with animals was a pretty constant part of our lives too. At one point, we actually lived in the veterinarian clinic that he owned and ran. And my brother and I would go in and out of the cages and pretend like we were animals.
You said your dad didn't have an affinity for horses. Where did you develop that affinity? You didn't have horses growing up, correct?
That's correct. I don't know. I like a lot of young girls and kids, horse is an animal that a lot of kids are drawn to. And, you always hear about the horse crazy girls, just crazy for horses. And I was a typical horse crazy girl, and I couldn't have one of my own. So drawing and sculpting them or creatively creating them was the next best thing for me.
So at what age did you get to interact with horses and ride a horse?
I was about 8. My parents got me some riding lessons, and I was just learning how to jump. And then my parents split. Therefore, there was no longer the financial support to keep me riding. So that ended quickly, which was a huge bummer for me. But as in my teen years, both my mom and my dad were able to find friends or had friends that had horses, and they were happy to have me exercise them, and I was more than happy to ride them. So I had some good riding and interaction with horses in my teen years.
Nice. Even from that young age of interacting with art and being encouraged, did you think that you were going to be an artist later on in life?
Yeah, I always knew I wanted to be an artist. But, as you guys are photographers, there's just so many choices just in wanting to be an artist. But I did know that for certain that was the path I wanted to take.
And what made you decide to go to school at Colorado State University?
I knew for sure I didn't want to go to an all arts school. I've always been interested in other sources of information outside of art. So I wanted to have the exposure to the sciences and the liberal arts and just other disciplines. So that's why I chose a university, and CSU was close to home and affordable. And they had a really good design program. So at that point, I was pretty sure I wanted to do graphic design, because I also knew that I didn't want to do the starving artist path. I knew it was harder to go fine artist right away. I definitely wanted that some sort of paycheck and working for someone because I knew it would provide me financial stability. And I really just wanted to be on my own.
So when you started the graphic design thing, was it already in the era of the computer? So was all your design on computer?
Right. No, it wasn't. Well, just as I was graduating, computers were coming onto the scene. And in fact, my last year or two at CSU, the art school had yet to get computers, but some of the other facilities, like the residence halls where the students lived, they had Macs, and they wanted help with some of the posters and kind of the promotional materials. So they put out job applications for 2 graphic designers. And so I applied and I got one of the positions. And therefore that's where I learned Photoshop and Illustrator. And I had to actually put something together and take it to a printer and walk it through the whole process of getting something designed from beginning to end. So that was really probably the best instruction I had at CSU, preparing me to be a graphic designer.
When you enrolled there, was that your intention from the get-go, or did it take you a year or two to figure out that was the path you were going to take?
It did take a few years. They had a really good biomedical illustration program as well. So I dipped my toes into that. At some point, I thought I might want to go into illustration. In fact, I think I was leaning towards that. I had planned to go on a tour after graduation and hit some of the bigger cities like Chicago and New York and Boston and show my portfolio and just see where it would take me. But I never got that far because I ended up getting a job right out of school at a decent design firm in Denver.
Nice.
How long did you work as a graphic designer?
Let's see. I always say about 11 years, but I left my graphic design job in 2002, I believe, maybe 2003. So let's see, 91. So that's about, 11 or 12 years.
Okay. Do you feel like you got a good education at CSU? Do you feel like it was well worth your time and the money that was spent and prepared you for the real world when you left?
In some ways, yes. I think it's a great buffer for any young person, that buffer between living with your parents and being fully supported to, I guess it depends on your situation, but in my situation, they paid for 4 years of college. So I wasn't completely doing it on my own, but it was still a buffer. You're on your own sort of there, maybe not financially, but you're making your own decisions and choices, and you don't have to report to mom or dad or be home at a curfew. So there's a lot of freedom in college, yet you're still sort of under the wings of support before you hit the real world. So in that sense, yes, I think it was really helpful, and you get exposed to different people and different ideas. And for me, in my case, things outside of the art school, and it was a great place to network. So, and the curriculum was great too. I mean, I've definitely had some really great seminal courses. Like there's an abstract class that really changed my thinking on abstract art. There's a sculpture class that I just, to this day, I think I actually prefer sculpture over painting. So yeah, it was really great, but I sort of felt that the information came in sort of little bits and pieces kind of scattered everywhere. And it wasn't until after college that sitting in a class with Kwang Ho, and he gave a 45-minute lecture, and I felt like all the things that I'd learned in college came to make sense in that 45 minutes. So he organized it in a way that connected all the dots. And I think a lot in hindsight too, a lot of it is probably just I was ready for that. Sometimes, when you're learning something, you just learn all the different facets of it. And at some point, things start to kind of connect and make more sense. So that happened after college, and it's still happening. So.
Well, there's this old ancient saying that when the student's ready, the teacher will show. And that was probably part of it. You had gotten all exposure to all these different tidbits, and then you were ready as a student. Kwang Ho steps in, and even though he doesn't know that he's going to be connecting these pieces, but just how he presented it with this background you had connected all the pieces. And like you said, it probably changed everything, a total outlook.
It did. It just, good design started making more sense because it's confusing. There's all these different things to, all the elements of design and art, and you get all this information and it's confusing, and he organized it in a way that just
made sense in your brain, right?
Yeah.
And there's a ton of bad design out there. Every day you see bad design. So when you're able to kind of put it together and really have a grasp an idea of what good design looks like, that's a huge difference in in everything, composition or whatever. It probably it does pulls over into your fine art work now.
Yeah. And graphic design was instrumental in that too. Just teaching, it's just more of the same, really, just different tools. But I do remember, so later I had been a designer for about 5 to 7 years already. And then again, Kwang had another class, and it was a full year thing. And we would meet every Friday for a full day, and we'd stay about a month on one design element. So for a month, we would just talk about and explore and do exercises with line. And then the next month we would just focus on like a dark and light pattern. And you just progress through the different elements. And at one point I do remember thinking that all the things I was doing in my design job, how similar they were to what he was communicating. And now it seems obvious, and maybe other artists have come to that conclusion a lot more easily. But for me, it was such an aha moment that, oh yeah, what I'm doing every day on the computer at work is exactly the same principles in terms of balance and good design is exactly the same as fine art. It's that underlying structure that's so important.
Those fundamentals and the foundation, right?
Yeah.
So was there ever a moment where in the middle of Kwang Ho's teachings that you were like, holy crap, why'd I go to college? I should have just did this for a year.
No, I don't. No, not at all. I really value my experience at CSU. It was really good in a lot of ways. But in terms of an art education and the foundational principles, again, they were all there. But I think it was kind of where I was at as a learning myself more than anything. I think if I had gone to that same program at CSU, 5 or 10 years later, I would have had a whole different intake of the information. It's so true. You learn the things that you're ready for when you're ready for them. And someone can teach you something till they're blue in the face. And if you're not ready for it, then it doesn't do anybody any good.
Right.
With anything, right? It doesn't have to just be art, just learning anything. Yeah.
So from your design experience, obviously there are some things that carried over, and you made this realization as you're taking classes with Kwang Ho. Were there other things that kind of carried over into when you made the jump into being a full-time artist from your graphic design life?
Business sense, that working in the real world with clients and parameters, and learning the computer was huge. I'm so grateful for that experience. It really prepared me to be able to work on my own. It gave me a sense of deadline and timing and the needs of your clients. And even though fine art, important part of it is to be listening to your truth and creating what it is that's important to you. But there's still, especially if you're just trying to get your name out there and getting exposure, and those things are important in terms of, bringing home the bread to pay the bills. Those aspects of working in the design field taught me those things so that I could carry myself as a fine artist independently. Did that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. So what was the catalyst that spurred you to make the jump to becoming a full-time artist and leaving the graphic design world behind?
Oh, yeah. So a lot of things. I had been building up to it. I think I was I don't know. At some point, I decided to make a go of it. I don't remember when that was exactly. And I was working at the time at the Denver Museum of Nature and Science, which was an amazing job because I was surrounded by all sorts of creative people in the exhibits department, photographers, spatial designers, exhibit designers, muralists, lighting specialists, but the scientists and educators too. So, sorry, I went off on a little tangent. Isn't a great job, but the really great thing about that job is as long as you put in the hours, they allowed you to put your schedule together. So I would work 40 hours Monday through Thursday and take Fridays off. So I had long weekends to start dedicating good chunks of time to the painting. And things were changing there too. They were pulling in more contract work as opposed to relying on the in-house designers. So they didn't mind when someone asked them if they could cut their hours back to like 3/4 time, which I did. So I just gradually got down to the point where I was working half time there and then committing the rest of my time to my artwork. And another factor I think that gave me the confidence to leave design was I got engaged, and there was more instability in my life in that way. Like, just I wasn't searching anymore for a relationship. And then with getting married, there was the financial stability too. It wasn't just my income. So it was a gradual transition. I just started putting more time into painting, and financially, I started earning money with my paintings. I got into a band gallery and was starting to sell work there. So I had income from my paintings, as well as I still had that stability of that paycheck every 2 weeks. And then I got invited to go to a second gallery. And at that point, I knew I couldn't do all of it. So I made a deal with my husband that if I could bring in the same amount of money that I was already making at the museum, that I could continue to paint full time. So we did that and made a go for it, and have never looked back.
Nice. It sounds like the perfect scenario.
It was, yeah, it really was, because it wasn't just like this big, sudden, I'm going for it and like completely abandoning any structure or stability in my life, which is important to, I think, the way that I'm wired. Like I'm not a big risk taker. So that it was ideal for me. I can see maybe other people have more courage to just take that jump. But it couldn't have been more perfect for me. And things were just lining up in my life, both professionally and socially. And
And we don't talk about this a lot, but how great is it that you met your husband, and it sounds like you were kind of under the same kind of mindset, the two of you, as far as where you needed to be and what you needed to do. And he was supportive in that.
Yeah, it was great. That I was a little obsessed with being an artist. So I think I ran on some thin treads there for a while. The weird dude's like, what the hell did I get into? All she thinks about is art.
But to make this thing go, you kind of do have to be obsessive, right? And it's cool that you had somebody that was willing to, back your dream and be supportive, and say, go for it,
Yeah.
As long as you...
So for sure, like you can go too far, I think, and hurt relationships too. So I feel fortunate I didn't go quite that far.
You seem like a thinker, though. So you seem like you're always thinking about all facets. The little bit that I've interacted with you and conversed with you previous, you seem like you probably had all the details and kind of thought it out really well before you decided that you were going to just go for it.
Yeah, there was definitely enough encouragement from the sales I was making, and the indications were pretty positive that it was going to probably work out. And I was open to the idea of failing and having to have to return to design or some other thing. So I wasn't completely fearless.
But you were pragmatic. I mean, from the get-go, from the education you got, you knew that you wanted to be a fine artist, but you also had the skill set that, the beautiful thing about it is that you could always do graphic design.
Yeah.
and make money that way. So, I mean, I think that was really smart.
Yeah. And I enjoyed it. I really very much enjoyed it.
Yeah, I think for some people that pragmatic side of it though can squash the creative and, the entrepreneurial spirit. So so it does take a certain person that's willing to, you still had to have the courage to step away from a sure thing to, even though it might have been gradual. And I think you did it probably the best way for you, it seems like. But it still takes courage to give up that, the 8 to 5 or whatever, and to do it full time. So kudos.
Yeah. It does help though. I do think having a spouse is really, it just, for me personally too, there's a level of stability that he brings to my life that allows me to, for me, it's kind of like if I didn't have that backbone or that stability, I think that it would impede on the freedom for me to create in a environment that's fluid. I mean, if you're worrying about making the next paycheck, or you're worried about these basic survival sort of things, I think it takes away from the freedom to be creative.
And I'm assuming you're still married. I get that sense, right? Any children or just the two of you?
We have a son. He's 15. Yeah.
So how do you find that balance between being a full-time fine artist and a family person?
Well, oddly, having a kid brought more balance to my life. And I was fortunate in that his parents love their grandkids, and he has 2 cousins and they live very close. So they would take the 3 kids twice a week. So I had 2 full days of just pure creative. And I don't think I could have continued working full time as an artist without that. It really was instrumental. But what had happened was that time that I had as my creative time or my work days was so focused. Pre-kid, kind of have all the time in the world, and oh well, maybe I'll do this or maybe I'll do that, or I don't have to get to this today, or maybe you spend more time on one project than that you knew you didn't need to, or you're just not as focused. Get sidetracked more easily. So I produced as much work as I had pre and post kid, but I was just that much more conscientious of making better decisions with my time. So, yeah.
And that kind of goes back to, being your previous life as a graphic designer and deadlines, right? And having to manage your time correctly to get everything done, right? It's just a different scenario. And now you have this, little person that you have to make time for and fit into that schedule, and just being, like you said, conscientious of how you're putting your day together, right?
Yep. And you just make more decisive decisions. I guess I'm speaking for myself, but I see it in my other artist friends too. Like, I think we think a lot in the gray zone. Like, some people are very black and white. They're just wired that way. And so for someone more that thinks in the gray zone, decision-making is sometimes hard because you think of all the possibilities, and then it makes it hard to zero in on which of those possibilities are the right choice. But when you're forced to make a decision more quickly, decisively, you more easily weed out all those choices that aren't quite as effective or crucial to your goals.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
And you've always had a bit of a entrepreneurial mind, yeah?
Yeah, I'd say so. Yeah, I did some stuff in high school to earn money from art. So,
yeah, talk a little bit about that.
I think the first venture was painting pet portraits. So and since my dad was a vet, I made these little display units, and I think I made about 5, and he had connections with other veterinarian clinics. So I put these little display units up on these desks, and I think for a small 9x12, you could get a portrait of your cat or dog for, I don't know, $45. And if you wanted a larger one, like 16x20 was $75. And I'd come out and take pictures, or they'd send me pictures and I'd draw something up. with pastels at the time. So I did that. And then the high school I went to had a really good art program, and they also had an extended graphic design program at the neighboring school. So I did that my senior year and picked up a few graphic design jobs, doing a few logos and mostly logos, I think. I'm trying to remember that. Yeah. So I was definitely out there trying to make money already from art at a pretty early age.
So smart.
Yeah.
Just follow your passion, I guess.
There you go.
But realizing that you have the skill set and a belief in yourself to go, hey, I think I'm going to do this. See if I can't make a little bit of money. So I think that's really cool. I always admire that trait in people. So you've been a full-time artist for like over 20 years, right? At this juncture of the game?
Yeah, well, it'll be 20 years this year. Yeah.
Oh.
So I think it was 2003 when I left the museum. It had to be. So yeah, 2023. I left the museum in spring, so it was May or April. So yeah, coming up on 20 years.
That's so awesome. Do you feel in those 20 years that you've attained or gotten to where you want to be? Do you feel like you found your voice as an artist?
Do we ever? Yes and no. I mean, there were a few, definitely I had goals that I wanted to reach and met a lot of them, but there were a few that I didn't. However, I also come to the point where I feel like all that hard work with getting my work out there and the marketing and the business side of things have paid off enough now to where that it matters, but not so much. Like I sort of feel like I really want to just create and not worry about where it's going to go or who. The whole marketing part of it is less important to me now than it used to be. And I also think that my skill set after just designing and composing all these years has become more, what's the word? When it becomes second nature, like the foundational things are more second nature for me now. So I really feel like I'm at a point that the expressive part really has a ground and an environment to really just take off. So my goal for 2023 is to let that happen and stop trying to control it, I guess, to some degree.
Obviously, you're a goal setter. Do you also feel like, at least previously, is this a new epiphany, I guess I should ask, kind of letting some stuff go and just being, you kind of said at the beginning before we got on, be in the moment and just kind of see where it leads you?
Yeah, definitely. And that's not my normal mode of working or thinking. I always have to have a plan or a goal or, an idea of 5-10 years down the road. And I don't really have that right now. And it's really weird, but I'm embracing it. And I'm just going to keep the doors open and just kind of follow what happens, what comes up.
That's exciting.
Yeah, it really is.
It's extremely liberating.
So when you were in the planning stages earlier on, when you were more like goal setting, was it did you like take a day and was it a structured time where you had a structure of the goals, or was it still just kind of, here's what I want to do, and it was all internal?
It was mostly internal. However, I do have a yearly calendar laid out in my studio, and I'll have certain goals, like so many paintings a month. And if I had shows or particular exhibitions that required a certain number, I would have that on that calendar. You need so many paintings for this exhibition or this event here. And I'd have all that laid out. And then I'd have an area for teaching. Like I've got this workshop coming up, make sure that I do the necessary steps leading up to it. And then I would have some goals, make a certain amount of dollars selling paintings, certain amount of income from the teaching, and then other goals outside, like get my website expanded to sell more prints or something, or set up a mentorship program online. So I have these bigger chunks of goals that I have, but I don't always make everything.
Sure. So do you have multiple income streams? You obviously, you said you teach, you're a fine artist. Is there other income streams that you rely on?
It's mostly the paint sales. That's my primary income. And then secondary, it's the teaching. But the internet and Instagram has really opened up some doors too in terms of selling some smaller items. So, and just the teaching, it's really opened up my outreach to be able to pull people into a workshop. But so that's changing the dynamics of my sources of income as well, to be able to do a little bit more on my own. But it's, as it's a lot of work.
Yeah.
One more thing to do.
They like to use the word passive income when they start talking about those kind of things, but there's never anything passive about them. It's still active. Even if you own rentals and they call that passive income, you have to maintain those rentals. You have to rent them out. You have to, so it's never passive as like they like to make you think it is.
Right. And that's actually the perfect word. So like I made some prints last year and I thought that would be great passive income, right? And it turned out that way. You just opened up more like things to do and you kind of get back into that area of like overwhelm and like you have to decide like, is this really what I want to do?
So do you mentor people? You mentioned mentoring. Do you mentor people as well?
I don't, but I get requests fairly often to do some sort of one-on-one interaction. So it's actually been on my list of goals for a couple of years now to set something up online. But again, it's like we figure out the structure, with the digital aspects of it and technology. And I know it's actually like a lot of websites offer those services for you. So in my head, it seems really overwhelming, but I just need to take a week or whatever and just do it. But yeah, so it's a goal. It's a plan.
And then do you have mentors?
I mean, everyone has mentors. I do, but not like actively. Like I don't report or connect with someone on a regular basis to get a feedback or input. But definitely through the years, there have been some really helpful people.
Yeah, I was just listening to an interview with Neil deGrasse Tyson, the astronomer. And, they always want to link him and Carl Sagan because, he met Carl Sagan as a teenager. And so they always think that he was his mentor. And he's like, he is my mentor in the sense that I gain a lot of information and ways of going about things, but I was never a proper mentor in that we met and talked about things. He was making the point, like, you don't necessarily have to be in their presence to have them as a mentor, that they can still mentor you, even though they don't even know that they're being a mentor to you.
Yes.
So,
yeah.
I thought that was kind of interesting.
Yeah. That's been my experience as well. Yeah. It'd be great to have like one person that takes you under their wing and kind of like, but at the same time, does that limit you to that one person's perspective? I think it's important to learn from multiple different resources.
Yeah. And I think there's a benefit to, apprentice under somebody and then having the ability to kind of break out of their shadow and do it on your own with your own voice, so to speak.
Yeah. Yeah. That's important. I suppose a good mentor, that's what their goals are for you.
So if you had the ability to just choose anybody to be your mentor, who would you choose?
Oh gosh.
Or maybe it's two or three people. We'll make it a little easier than just choosing one.
Yeah. I'd have to think about that. Oh, it might not even be an artist. It might be more like a meditation instructor or something to really dive into mechanics, or not necessarily the mechanics, but the experience of the mind and spirituality. Because I think that's an important part of art. It's a part of being human, but I suppose that's one of my areas of interest too. So I might say that right now, I would totally love to be under I'm really into the, do you know who's Saad? I was just listening to him before I met with you guys. Saad Guru. It's Sadhguru, and I'm testing out his meditation app. I'm finding it really helpful. So I don't know, someone like that. Trying to think artistically. I don't know. There's a lot of artists I admire very much.
Who are some of those folks?
So Sophie Brown, I suspect you might be talking to her soon. And David Grossman. There's so many, but right now those are the two I tend to keep returning to. Both Coors artists.
Mm-hmm.
But what I love about Sophie is that, I'm so structural and I plan things out, and I kind of have to figure my work out on a structural level before I apply the expressive paint and that part of the process. And she's such a great sense of play and exploration that she doesn't really, I'm not speaking for her, but my perspective of when I observe her and her work and have opportunities to listen to her and talk to her is she's like 100% pure art. She doesn't worry about the marketing. She doesn't worry about social media. It's all about being in the moment, creating and following these impulses, but yet she has the intuitive and the integrity of structurally beautifully composed pieces. And she's aware of all those things, but she just, I guess, pure. She's just like, doesn't worry about all the technical, mechanical, social. She just does it.
The peripheral stuff that you think you have to kind of worry about as a business person.
Yeah. And, you do. I mean, it's all part of the process, but she seems to manage less so with that stuff.
Yeah. Her work is magnificent. It's beautiful.
Yeah. And then David Grossman, when I look at work and I try and break it down verbally in terms of like repetition in art and cohesiveness and harmony, and his are so beautifully composed from like the overall big picture down to the last little stroke. And I look at a piece, like he had one in the Coors show that just blew me away. It was this tree that was kind of like wind blown, and just the movement and the shape of the big overriding tree, that all the supporting subshapes all fed into this picture. Like everything was essential. That's what I love about his work, is nothing feels extraneous. And,
it's very clean.
Yeah. His color is beautiful. And there's a abstract quality to it. They're very, I don't like the word stylized, but they're clearly his pieces. And they're different. It's like, I think it's hard to be a landscape painter and not look like a lot of other landscape painters. I mean, he's got a voice that's just so David. And if you've read any of his newsletters or that sort of thing, and you hear his words and his voice, and then you look at his paintings and you're like, oh yeah, that totally makes sense.
That one piece definitely seems like it's loaded so much with symbolism. It's just all over the place. Like I can definitely tell, like Todd is really attracted to that when we were talking about him with Rose. And I totally saw that piece. And I haven't had the opportunity to see the piece in person where Todd and both you, Todd, and have. But I can tell when he brought it up on the screen and I was looking at it, it just seems like there's just a narrative there that is amazing. So,
yeah.
Don't you feel that, Todd?
Absolutely. I mean, there's something about it. I think all of his work, I just feel this peacefulness about it, and I kind of just get lost. It just sucks you in, and I find it mesmerizing. And the way you describe the work is pretty much the way Rose has described the work as well. So, he sounds like a very interesting person.
Yeah. Very calm, very gentle. He's amazing. I love his work.
So have you struck up a friendship with him?
But we know of each other, and we talk briefly when we see each other at shows, but I wouldn't say we're good friends. I mean, I think we like each other, but
Sure.
Yeah.
I'm just curious if you had to, like, some artists travel in their own little collective or group or whatever. I was just curious if he's part of that, of your circle. So
no, I don't have any friends. No, just kidding.
I don't think that's probably true. You seem too likable of a person for that to be true. But
Yeah, I'm not social at all. I mean, getting me out to even go out to dinner with someone I adore is like really have to drag me out. Just want to be home.
So kind of stereotypical artists, introverted, happy to be in their own space, doing their own thing.
Yeah, like having to get dressed up to go out to dinner, just very unappealing.
Oh, that's so funny. It's funny because I can relate to it too. So anyway, Rose spoke when we talked with her that there's been a handful of artists that are part of the core show that have collaborated. Talk a little bit about that, because your name was thrown into that whole mix.
Well, Sophie's one of them. So Sophie, Stephanie Hartshorn, and Amy Lageson. So yeah, the four of us, we have the Coors connection, but we also have a connection with Ranchlands, and they have an artist program, and once a year they invite artists to come hang out at the ranch and spend a few days, and then they follow up with some sort of art show in the fall. So the four of us have been going. I think I'm the longest. I've been there the longest with the artist gathering, and Stephanie and Amy and Sophie, I can't remember when they came on aboard, but anyhow, we fell in love with a particular location on the ranch, and it just was this core of inspiration and us working together. And Sophie's sort of the ringleader. She's making sure we get together and do these creative projects together based off of this location on the ranch. And it's been an amazing experience working with these amazing women, and having projects that there's no goal with them. I mean, there sort of is, but we're just doing it, being creative for creative sake, and coming together and working on a project with really this is the part that actually drives me crazy. Like, what's our goal? What's our plan? Like, what's the theme, And like, Sophie's like, well, we're just going to do it. Let's see where it takes us. So it's a really great balance of all these different personalities and ways that we approach our art, and but we come together, and I don't know, it's been what's the word? Very meaningful. Yeah.
So how many years you been going there?
Right about when I quit my job, so it's about 20 years. Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
And then how did you find out about it? Was it from a friend, or did they advertise, or how did you find out about Ranchland?
It was a coworker at the museum who's also an artist. He worked in the zoology department, and he was invited the prior year. I think that was the first year they had this artist gathering, and I'm not sure how he knew the family that managed the ranch. But the second year, he thought, because he knew that I was starting to make a move towards painting, he invited me to go to the ranch. And I've been going every year since, sometimes more than one time, but yeah.
Yeah, it sounds like an amazing opportunity in a sense. It must be obviously a beautiful place to really get your creative. So when you were out there, were you doing kind of plein air painting?
Yeah, plein air. And I would just hang out with the livestock. I'd sketch some cows, and like, it was just a magical place. The people there had a quality about them that was so different than just my daily life living in suburbia or the city. There was a calmness and a down to earth quality about the way people talked and interacted with you. And I just really sort of fell in love with the place. And And at that time, I didn't have any intention of painting cows or cattle or anything Western, just enjoying. I guess it kind of brought me back to the love of horses, but I wasn't really thinking that that's where I was going to go with it. And really being connected to ranch lands has really been the focus of my art heavily for the last, 15 years.
Yeah. So where does the bison come in? Same place or?
It's the same company, but they manage several ranches. So the one that I first went to is in Colorado Springs. It's called Chico Basin Ranch. And then around 2007, they partnered with the Nature Conservancy near Alamosa, Colorado, and that's where the bison are. So the Nature Conservancy had property that had a lot of bison, and they brought in ranchlands to help manage that part of it. So they decided to try the artist gathering there one year, and they've continued to do it every year since. I think, 2007 was the first year they did it there. I remember because I was pregnant. This big old belly. I almost didn't go because I thought, I don't know, I'm pretty close to the due date, and I got this big old belly. But I went. I'm glad I went.
Yeah.
That first year was the only year when I saw there's about 20 huge male bison, and they're all hanging out together. And I don't understand how bison live and work and their manners and their habits. But since then, I've never seen that many big bulls hanging out together. It was impressive. I mean, they were huge, and so many of them together. Like you'll see now, I see one alone, with a bunch of cows and calves, but never like that. So sometimes I'll still refer back to that, my references from that day, because it was just, I haven't seen it since.
Yeah, I'm a huge bison fan. I love bison. We have Custer State Park just south of us, and I spent a lot of time there I was there actually a couple of weeks ago with my granddaughter, and just love looking at those magnificent beasts. They're so, I don't know, there's just something about them. They're so powerful, Yeah.
They're cool. They're really cool.
Yeah. And I love your work with the bison. So a lot of this comes from reference photos, or how do you approach that? Or do you out there sketching and then go back and paint?
Yeah, I wish I could say I spent more time sketching the bison. Mostly, when I'm there, I sketch and hang out with the horses, which is really great too. But yeah, for my bison paintings, they're mostly from photo references.
Well, they're beautiful. I love your paintings of bison. It's amazing.
Thanks.
Yeah, I love this painting of yours, Bison Bull number 5, that's on your website. Did you just gravitate towards these animals when you first experienced them? Was that the first time you got to experience them is at Ranchlands, right?
Yeah. I think because it was we got up close because Duke was there. He's the CEO of Ranchlands. He was there that trip. And so he was out there with us with the bison, and because he was there, he was able to let us know how close we could get to them safely. And they came pretty close to the road. And so there was a comfort of being around them that I wouldn't have had he not been there.
Like Wes, I think they're majestic, and I love all your paintings of them, especially this one that I have pulled up. But just your experience with them, and you've painted them a lot. Do people gravitate towards this body of work of yours that concentrates on bison?
Yeah, definitely. There's a market and an interest for bison. So I suppose from a marketing part of my brain, that was a part of why I painted them. And that first experience, seeing them up close and those big bulls, was pretty impactful. But I'd have to say that the connection and the sentiments I have towards horses is much stronger than I do towards the bison.
And would you say that you're more known for your horse paintings than anything else?
I don't know. maybe lately, just because with social media and Instagram, it seems to be that, if I factor that, like the popularity of posts, probably horses are more popular. But in terms of like the Western shows that I've done or am involved with, the bison are always really popular, probably more so than the horses.
And you have gallery representation of 4 different galleries that you show in. Is that correct?
4, yep.
Talk a little bit about that.
Sure. So I'm in Astoria and Jackson Hole. I'm in Nedra Matucci in Santa Fe, and Gallery 1261 in Denver, and then OB Joyful Gallery in Crested Butte. And they're all great, but they are more, kind of, well, not with the exception of 1261, they're all definitely more Western themed. And I was invited into Astoria because of the Coors show, because I was painting bison and horses and that subject matter. So the bison definitely, I think, helped in terms of helping me get into particular shows and galleries.
Gotcha. And do certain galleries sell certain subject matter better than others? So you kind of send, this gallery certain pieces and this gallery gets certain pieces because they move certain things, or is it just a little bit of everything?
It's a little bit of everything, and they're all really great. They never, really request anything. They let me just paint what I want to paint, and they'll take anything I have to offer them. So there's no creative restrictions whatsoever with the galleries I'm in. And I suppose if I did something really different, I always send them an image first before I ship anything out, and they always have them. They can always tell me, well, I don't think that's right for us. So
interesting. Okay. That was kind of my follow-up. So you send them images of what you've been painting, and if they like it, great, send it to them. If they're like, it's not quite what we're looking for right at the moment, or what have you, then kind of just move on. Is that the way it works?
Yeah, or offer it to another gallery. And but for the most part, it's very rare that they wouldn't want something. But who knows, with 2023, maybe I'll do something crazy like a pure abstract painting and nobody will want it. Which is fine. I'm okay with that.
I doubt that. You maintain a presence on Instagram and on Facebook. And on your intro on your Facebook page, you say full-time artist working in contemporary realism, though I think in abstraction. I paint what I see. Talk about this idea of painting in abstraction.
Every painting comes down to those foundational and abstract terms of art. So line, value, color, particular shape is, a triangle or circular or whatever. So I'm not saying anything like finger or ear or eyeball, right? It's all abstract terms. So that's how I think when I paint. So when I'm painting a horse, for example, I'm not thinking, when I'm composing it, I'm not thinking, oh, I'm painting the eye right now. I'm thinking, oh, this is brown, or it's a particular color and it's a particular shape and it's a particular size, and it needs to go here because it fits in the orchestration of the overall structure. Does that make sense? So I'm not really ever thinking literally. To some degree, you have to, obviously, if I want it to read like horse, I have to know it. Anatomy has to be correct and that sort of thing. But when it really comes down to putting my paintbrush to the canvas, I'm thinking in those terms, the abstract terms.
Gotcha. Yeah, my brain doesn't work that way.
It doesn't? Well, it's different.
Maybe it does. Maybe on some level. But yeah, you're thinking, but maybe because the medium is different, right?
Yeah.
Well, I think you're probably thinking in total values, color, contrasting color in a composition, that kind of stuff. So you're thinking in the same kind of terms she's thinking, but you're also working in the figurative. So that may overpower you. But I bet if you really sat back and analyzed yourself while you're in the moment, you're looking at all those different line. Where is it going? Composition, tonal value,
So how would you describe it for you? You said it's different. Like, can you articulate how you think different?
That's a really good question. Because I know that, like yourself, I've been doing it for long enough now that I don't have to think about the fundamentals of what I'm doing. And it happens like totally, like I don't have to think about it, Like one of the things they teach you in photo school was, when you're lighting, the different values, it's always light on dark, dark on light, and I always have that going on in my photographs, but I don't have to think about it. I just do it naturally at this point, It's more about, first and foremost, it's probably about composition, but I think this is what intrigues me about painting. It's like it seems like such a different, I know there's crossover, but it seems like such a different mindset. And I keep thinking that I should take some classes like at the Art Students League or something like that, and delve into a different medium and just explore and see what it would do to, for my photography, come at it with a totally different mindset, maybe.
Yeah. I find that when I take a class, and every once in a while I'll do something like sculpture or printmaking, I love printmaking, but I'll find that after I've taken a class, you'll notice that like there's certain things you can do with printmaking that you can't do with the painting, but I start thinking, I'll get excited about something I'm doing with the prints, and then I'll try and translate that into an oil painting. Like I'll have to use different tools or a different method to get what it was that I achieved with the printmaking. But definitely, I find when I learn a different medium, it completely impacts my thinking on my main medium, which is oil. Yeah, I would love to see what would happen if, like, you were to take what's the class you would like to learn something about?
I wouldn't mind taking an oil painting class, just because it's so foreign to me, and I have a huge appreciation for it, and I just know that I should just do it.
Yeah, should.
I should just allocate the time, and I don't care if I know that it takes years and years to master any medium, so I think it would just be fun to get my hands dirty doing something else. Yeah. I just don't have to think about it when I'm doing. I'll think about it, but I know how to get there. Like I don't have to think about what the route is to do it. I just do it naturally. Like it doesn't. I know what I'm looking for. I know how to go about it. I just need to do it, and I don't even have to dwell on the nuance, right? Like I know it might be like logistically difficult, but I don't even think about it. Like I just completely put that out of my mind. I learned to do that a long time ago. Like otherwise I get hung up on how difficult it might be. I just go and I start doing it, and I know what I'm looking for. And I have enough tools in my tool chest to make it happen,
I wonder what would happen if you lost one of those tools, or that process you just explained got disrupted by something new or something lacking, and how that would interrupt you, and what would be the result of that? Would it be?
I've actually thought about that a lot recently because I'm getting older, right? And my body's taken a lot of abuse over the years carrying heavy photo gear. I'm in a new studio space, which is something I haven't had in a long time, because I'm pretty much a location guy. And I just thought, like, if I have to pivot, what that would look like, or what I would do differently, or if I was to lose, mobility or something that I'm used to having or I take for granted, right? So I have thought in those terms. So that's interesting that you brought that up and kind of questioned me on it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm excited for 2023 because I feel like I'm hoping it's going to be a year of exploration. That's my intention. So we'll see what comes out of it. So you just planted the seed, and now I'm going to explore what I might take as far as a class. Do you have any suggestions?
No, I think that's got to come from you. You ask
Okay.
yourself what it is that you gravitate towards, and I don't know, maybe, yeah, I don't know. It's gotta, you have the beauty of talking to so many different artists. You probably have way more resources and inspiration that you could pull from just from that. Oh man, I want to do that.
Well, I ask you that question because you've definitely explored way more mediums than I ever have. I'm kind of I won't say a one trick pony, but kind of stay in my lane. So I think it'd be good. I don't want to. I feel time ticking, so I feel like I want to. Yeah,
Get that.
because I think we're all kind of the same generation, age group, and I think about this a lot. Like, okay, I got more days behind me than I do in front of me, and what do I want to do with my time, right?
Yeah. Yeah. That's where I'm at too. The whole like kind of throwing my hands up and see what happens.
I mean, if you put it in perspective too, like let's say for me, for instance, my dad lives with me now and he's 20 years older than I am. That's 20 summers. That's just 20 summers.
I know.
Where I'm 80 years old, 81 years old.
Yeah.
20 summers.
Yeah. And you're so much aware of your body changing.
Yeah.
Your abilities changing. And watching your parents age, watching friends that are older than you age, and you kind of get a preview of what could very easily happen to you, whether it's your eyesight, not being as sharp, or your strength, you're very aware of that when you're over that midpoint, as Todd mentioned.
Well, and we feel it now. I know Todd and I've talked about this. I don't have the mobility I did even 10 years ago. My memory is starting to not be as sharp as it was 10 years ago. Yeah. So I'm already feeling like Todd. I'm like, time is ticking, and what are you going to do with the next 20 summers?
Yeah. Yep.
So.
Yeah. That's kind of a scary way to think of it. The 20 summers, because that seems like nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You think about the previous 20 and then what the next 20 could be.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like, holy cow. I better get on the stick.
Yeah.
The beautiful thing though is it's also, if you look back 20 years, that's a totally different time. It's almost, at least for me, when I think back of like when I was in the Marine Corps, it's like another lifetime ago. It doesn't even seem like it was really part of me, but I know it was because I have photos and I have memories, but it seems like a total. And then I went to college, and those college years and slightly after, like when I met Todd, it seems like it was a different life, so 20 years is another life that you can pick up something new or hone a different skill, so to speak. I don't know.
Yeah. And it's so easy to learn something new now. I mean, with just the internet, you can really, the sky's the limit. I mean, I suppose there's the physical part of learning the ability to do something, but all the information's there if you want it.
Yeah.
Any new discipline, anything.
Yeah.
There's video and books, and I think life was so much more simpler even just 10 years ago. Now there's so much going on. I think the crazier the world gets, the more I want to just calm down and simplify my life. Maybe that's for old farts.
At the same time, it's an exciting time to live. Like you said, we have a lot of resources at our fingertips that we didn't have 20 years ago. So, it's pretty amazing, pretty cool.
Yeah. We've got some experience under our belts too to help us move us in whatever direction we're going to go.
Tenet wants to acknowledge our media sponsor, New Magazine. That's NUE. You can follow both the national and the Denver edition of New Magazine on Instagram. The national edition can be found at new_magazine, and the Denver edition at new_Denver_magazine. And I want to share with you something very exciting. Check out the newly launched New Denver Gallery Guide. Look for the signage that says New Denver Gallery Guide that has a QR code. Scan it with your phone, and you have instant access to a comprehensive digital guide to Denver's finest galleries and exhibitions. Find this QR code in your favorite gallery, hotel, or coffee shop as you visit and explore Denver. Thanks for listening.
I'm Jill Soukup, and you're listening to the Tenant Podcast.
Ranch lands seems like a really interesting business model or collective, for lack of a better description. And you've been part of it for, 20 years now. How long have you been teaching these workshops? Because I want you to talk a little bit about the teaching aspect of what you do in your art life.
Okay. Yeah, I started teaching the painting horses workshop in, I think we figured it was 12 years this year. It'll be 12. And that started because I had been teaching already just through local organizations. And because I was returning to the ranch every year, just through the artist gatherings and doing more horses, I really wanted to teach a class on horses being the main theme, like painting horses. I mean, I bring in the other stuff too, like composition and structure and all that. But the focus was being at a ranch and being with the horses, studying them live and doing exercises based off of the horses. So I approached the ranch and asked if that was something they would be interested in doing with me, like partnering up and hosting a workshop. And they said yes. And we've done it every year since. And some years we'll do two, depending on what's available in terms of being able to house people and what's going on with their end of the business. Because obviously they do a lot more than host workshops. But and I love teaching it. It's it's an all-encompassing, immersive experience. We're with each other, the students and myself, from really morning to night. I pack it in, like we're up early. Sometimes we'll go look for the bison. Sometimes students want to photograph the horses being wrangled in. But we eat breakfast together, and we go out and do an exercise with the horses live in terms of studying them and drawing them. Have lunch together. Well, sometimes people spend lunchtime. They need a little alone time. And then the afternoons we're in a studio doing some sort of formal exercises. And then in the evening, I'll give some sort of presentation and we eat dinner together. And it's just, there's, I think, a lot of friendships developed there because, we're all there because we love art and we're there because we love horses. Some students have told me that they still keep in touch with people that they've met there. And I don't know, it's just, there's something about that place too. We removed from, your everyday life, and the staff there is amazing. And it's just all around us, and just a great place. And I think a great experience, and like-minded people and all sorts of abilities. I have had a few students that weren't even artists. They were like, one woman was an executive, high up there in the food chain of some corporation. And she started drawing like 2 months before she came to the workshop. But she was one of my best students because she was just so excited to learn. And, I pack in a lot of content, and I'm sure it was overwhelming for her, but she just took what she could and appreciated where she was at, and just enjoyed being there. So, and then I'll get, some really advanced professional artists that come to take the workshop. So the whole gamut.
So correct me if I'm wrong. And this happens in Mosca, Colorado. Is that correct? In the San Luis Valley?
Yes.
So for people who have never experienced Colorado, or even that part of Colorado, it's one of the most beautiful places on the face of the earth. I personally feel it's just a stunning environment. And so you don't have to be like a professional artist to take these. You could be a novice. There's no prerequisites to taking this workshop.
No, I do ask that students come with some drawing experience, but like I said, I'll get students that have absolutely no time with creative classes or anything, and they do great. So I think it's more of an attitude thing. But I think if you're more inclined to improve yourself as an artist and have been working already as an artist or working towards being an artist, it's helpful to have some drawing under your belt.
And how big are these class sizes?
We top it off at 16. So we max out at I don't feel like I can be a good instructor for that kind of class with more than that. And I want to make sure that everyone gets enough individual attention, and plus the lodging that puts a limit on how many people we can bring. They only have some rooms.
So you're the only instructor when this workshop is happening?
Yes.
Okay. And I'm sorry, when did you start doing this? How many years ago?
About 12 years. So what year would that be?
2010, 2000?
Yeah, somewhere around there.
11, something like that. Yeah. Right on. And this year's workshop looks like it happens September 24th through the 29th. And it's just the one this year?
We're hoping to do a boot camp in April, and that's going to be a new workshop for me, and it's all horse anatomy. So we won't so much work on formal concepts like composition and color, it's all going to be about what it says, painting horses boot camp. So we're going to really dig into the anatomy of the horse, the skeletal structure, the muscle structure, the gaits, a walk, a trot, canter, a gallop, movement. And we'll spend some time, on just the coat colors, the color of horses. So a little bit of color will be involved, but it really is all about hardcore. Let's understand the horse.
And outside of obviously the monetary benefit of teaching a workshop, what else do you get out of it? What do you get out of teaching? Why do you like doing it?
Yeah, I always tell my students, I think I get more out of it than they do. I love preparing for a new workshop. So this boot camp, I'm excited about just creating the content because it forces me to really review the material I know already. And I'll start researching from other resources that are new to me, like how else have other artists approached this, what's worked for other instructors, how can I incorporate that into my workshop? And by doing that, I always find that I learn more, I dig deeper and deeper into understanding whatever it is I'm trying to teach. And I'm always amazed at the harder I dig and prepare for a class, the more I'm like, oh my God, I could even there's so much more out there that I'm just going to cover the surface in this workshop. So for me, it's a huge learning experience. And I think that's the part of it that I find really exciting, actually. How much more can I discover?
And you have a limited amount of time. So you got to distill that information down to what you feel is like the most important, what they think they're going to get the most out of. Right. So that's got to be a difficult challenge as well. Right.
Well, I'm glad you said that, because that's actually, I think at its core, that's what I really enjoy is pulling all this information and finding a way to communicate it in a way that organizes it and simplifies it in a manner that makes sense to other people. Because when I'm researching it, I start off and I just bring in as much information as I can, and then I start to sort it and make sense of it. And I can see, oh, this belongs with this, and it makes more sense to talk about this here. And there's a logical progression in what I present that allows them to build upon what we talked about yesterday. It's important to have that first so that when we get to, A was on one day, and then when we get to B, they're going to have that information that they learned on the first day is going to help them understand the next day, and so on. So it's I guess you can tell I'm a little bit of an organizational freak. So that's a big part of it. I really enjoy taking all this information and putting it in a more simplified, cohesive presentation, because it makes me understand it better too. And if I can communicate that and get someone else to understand it, then that's the icing on the cake.
It makes you a better artist, right?
Definitely. I mean, that's definitely part of why I love to teach, because it's helping me grow too.
Makes you stop and think of why you do things the way you do it.
Yeah. And I love it when like something isn't communicated, like, okay, like why didn't they get it? Because like nobody gets it, right? It's like, okay, I'm obviously doing something wrong here. What is it that how do I need to change it so that I'm making sense to other people? But
You also have an online class that's available as well. Is that correct?
yep. It's I partnered with a company in South Korea, and that's been the same thing, sort of the same, like to put that together was such a I learned so much from that. And even in my own work, it clarified so many things. I talked about Kwang Ho helping me connect all these dots, and that learning never ends. And teaching that, preparing the online class for it's called Class 101. It did another level for me in that category in terms of like connecting more dots and have to take really everything that I've learned and what's the most concise, most important points to teach in this 8-week or 8-lesson class, really talking about everything. So that was really a huge learning experience, but it very much helped clarify my own work. But yeah. And that's a subscription. They've just switched over to more of a subscription-based thing. It used to be you buy per class, but now you buy a subscription and you have access to all of their courses. So I think the price is about the same, but now you can do whatever courses you want. There's a lot of anime, like that's real popular now, especially with I think the younger generations. They're kind of cartoony. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So,
Japanese based typically, or Asian based.
Yeah. So I'd say the majority of their classes that they offer are that, but they're expanding into even non-art things, I think there's some exercise courses you can take, and definitely creative things like cookie creating or paper make. They've got a lot, but definitely it's mostly populated with the anime stuff. I'm sure it's because that's what people are demanding.
Yeah. And when this started, or when you did this, did you reach out to these folks, or did they find you and reach out to you?
They reached out to me. Good old Instagram. Seems to be where a lot of doors are opening for me, although I lost my account. So I'm down to ground zero with Instagram, which has been a bummer, but
oh, no.
Yeah.
So the Instagram account that's currently up, that's your old account. Is that correct?
It's my new one. I have the same handle, but I lost all my followers. So I'm down. I'm back like up to 250 or something, but I was down to ground zero all over a couple months ago. And I still have weird stuff going on with the hacked account. I don't really want to fully engage with, I don't know if this is boring for people, but I'm not fully engaging with Instagram until I get everything cleaned up. But, it was, in some ways it was good because I had been wanting to expand through other social media outlets. I didn't want to have all my eggs in one basket, for the very precise reason why, what happened to me, losing everything. Like, it was really becoming a great source of, for teaching. I could fill a workshop in a day. Getting invited to teach this online course in another country, like that would have never happened without Instagram. So anyhow, I need to start thinking about some of the other platforms and but it's time. Like, that takes a lot of work. You guys know how much time it takes just to run a podcast. So how do you want to spend your time? There's always that question.
So that's kind of interesting, because I was thinking about this today when I was thinking about this interview tonight, and I knew you were on Instagram, and who knows why this popped in my head, but one of the questions I want to ask you is what kind of what other platforms are you looking at? And it's so weird because I know you have Facebook, I know you have Instagram, but I didn't know any of this information. So has there been some other platforms that have kind of interest you, or are you just truly at the beginning stages?
Yeah, I mean, I have looked into other platforms that would be equivalent to Instagram, because that one's just been so, I think, so powerful for a lot of people, a lot of artists, a lot of small businesses. Really, there really isn't anything that compares, which is, I wish there was another option, because it's been a challenge to recover and start over, and getting technical help has not been easy. So other platforms really are some of the big names already that already allow you to grow fast and have pretty high exposure. And those are the ones that everyone uses. So YouTube, Twitter, I suppose, I know they've gone through a lot of changes, but it's still a very big platform. And Pinterest, but they all have their nuances, and that's what I'm starting to learn. Like, Pinterest is really more of just a brainstorming center. It's great in terms of getting your artwork seen.
Yeah.
But it's not necessarily, I mean, I don't, it's so new to me. I'm probably not the best person to talk about it, but I'm finding it's more of just, you get your ideas out there, but it's not really a platform to communicate with people.
Right.
Instagram is great to be able to communicate with people. I'm really new to Twitter. In fact, I'm not even really, I'm observing other accounts right now just to get an idea of how I can make it work for me. And YouTube, though, is a big one. So I'm really hoping to do more video, more on the line of instruction, like just do little tiny 2 or 3 minute talking about composing a painting sort of stuff. Right.
Yeah. I think it's right for another Instagram kind of thing. Cause I think this one, cause I hear there's, it's great for what you're using it for, or what most artists are using it for, but there's some limitations that I think if somebody approached it with artists in mind, that it could explain, something new could really come of that. But, it's hard to compete against, Meta. So
it is. I know. I wish too that someone would come up with something that was what Instagram was and start over.
Yeah.
But I know when I was looking into it, I wish I could remember some of the other platforms that were like best. I mean, you can just Google it, like other options or next best thing to Instagram, or what are some Instagram alternatives. And I can't think of any of them right now, but I found one page that listed about 10. One was heavily for photographers. You guys probably know what those are.
Yeah, there's Tumblr and some of those, but they're even older than Instagram, and they've kind of died off. But I shouldn't say died off. They're just not the go-to that, like TikTok seems to be the most recent phenomenon that everybody's trying to emulate. But I haven't seen anything as far as photographers or artists that I think is equivalent to what Instagram brings to the table. I don't know. Anyway, but I was just kind of curious.
Yeah, no, that's what I came out of it too. So I've decided that I'm just going to stick with the big ones. And
yeah,
well, that's not entirely true. I mean, it couldn't hurt to have a presence in some of the smaller ones, just because you never know. That's the thing that's so hard for me, is things change. Like, you can't really count on anything. Like, who knows? Like, Instagram might be completely obsolete in 2 years. We don't know. There might be something else that it's just constantly changing. So I don't like that kind of constant change. I want something to stay the same, so I can. It's like Photoshop. You constantly they're always updating it, upgrading it. Like, wait, I just learned how to do the last one.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
So true. Do you ever experience creative blocks? And if so, how do you work through that?
I think it's more of where my energy and my mental state is. I think I can recognize when I have, I suppose you could call it a mental block. But I recognize it more as I'm tired, or I need to walk away. I need to go exercise, or I need to not think about art at all for a few days. Or, I guess that's kind of how I see it. My mind is tired of trying to make and figure out creative solutions for whatever it is I'm working on. But I don't ever run out of things I want to create. That's endless. That's never a problem.
And how do you decide when you're starting a new painting or whatever? And I assume working the medium that you do, that you probably have multiple paintings going on at any given time because of the time it takes for things to dry and so forth. How do you decide what you're going to paint?
I start with my photo selections that I've got so many photos. So I'll start with like a photo shoot. Like I'll go visit the ranch. I'll come back and I'll have a gazillion photos. And the curse and the joy of digital photos. I'll go through them and I just pull out the ones that I like immediately have a reaction to, and then I put them in another folder, and then and I just let it rest. And then at some point I'll come back and I'll single out of that folder whichever ones I gravitate to the most, and I might start manipulating a few, like cropping them or slightly changing the size of something, and then I put that away, and then I'll come back and review those images, and I'll pull the best and put them in another folder. So I just gradually make the folder smaller and smaller, and the images that continue to excite me are the ones that I'll eventually paint. But the number of those that I have is huge. So, I don't mind that either, because sometimes enough time will go by where automatically I'm like, oh, what did I see in that? And throw it away, So, and then there's some that just like always hit me, but some of them take years, 10 years, where I'll keep returning to, where I like it. There's something about it, but I'm not quite ready to paint it. So that's sort of the initial process of figuring out exactly what it is I want to paint.
It's interesting how everybody, the process. I love hearing how people go about their work.
Yeah.
I was just going to say, you seem very structured. So what's your regular routine? Do you have a regular routine? I assume that you do.
Yep. It always seems to evolve or maybe even return. But for the most part, I get up and start my day with a cup of coffee and on my computer, check the email, get kind of those essential things, getting back to people in the morning. And then and that happens right around when my son's heading off to school. And then once he's gone, and hang out with my husband for a few minutes, we drink coffee together, get a few emails done. I head down to the studio. And lately I've been addressing the business side of things that I need to just clear my head. And then I'll go paint for 4 to 6 hours. And then by then my mind is tired, and like the whole creative block comes in, and that's when I stop, and I'll either do something that's really easy in the studio, something that doesn't take a lot of thought or energy, like, I don't know, filing something in my inventory or something, or going to get exercise. So it's pretty much it. So business, creative, and then business at the end of the day. But it wasn't just, that's recent. Before it was, I'd always have to do the creative stuff right away until I got tired, and then I would address the non-creative stuff. So it's changing. It always changes, but that's what it is as of now.
And that's every day or just certain days of the week?
Monday through Friday. I take weekends off.
Okay.
That's definitely designated. Family always comes first. Like, if ever there was a choice between having to go to work in the studio or deal with something, family always comes first. But on the weekends, it's not that I don't work on the weekends, but it's only if there's nothing going on with the family.
Gotcha.
But I don't do necessarily creative stuff on the weekend. It's always like organizational or catching up, because the creative time is it's it's so intense that I really have. And I know this is going to sound odd, like people, when I talk to other artists, they can't wait to get to the creative part. But when a weekend comes, that's the last thing I want to do. So I don't know. Definitely during the week is designated creative time, and it's I guess it takes a lot out of me. So
it's great that you're able to differentiate, what days or what times you're doing what you need to do, and and it sounds like you strike a good balance between family time and your work. Did it take you a while to kind of figure that one out?
no, I suppose it's always sort of been that way. Even from the days of having a graphic design job, you get up, you go to work. When you're done with work, that's your time. You can work out or hang out with your loved ones. And the next day is the same. You get up, go to work, and you sort of have this regimented scheduling and breakup of your hours. That feels good for me. It works with the way my mind works. So it just naturally does that now with how I structure my days.
And you've mentioned exercise multiple times. So what kind of things do you do to break you out of the normal routine that benefits you? And obviously you feel the benefit of the exercise is beneficial. So talk about what you do as far as a exercise program or regimen.
It's mostly just walking, running, but I have an injury right now, so I can't run, and mountain biking and some yoga. But I mentioned earlier that I'm starting to explore some of the meditation apps, and I'm finding that serves the same purpose that the exercise does. It's just sort of this allowing for me, running and mountain biking are very meditative. So maybe that's why I'm finding that the meditation has the same effect. But yeah, I don't know if you experience, you just can feel it in your body and in your mind. You need to just kind of chill out and get your mind in a state of just calm.
Yeah, it helps to reboot, right?
Yeah. And then I find if I do that, I can come back and have another good couple hours of some pretty intense work. Sometimes the creative part of it, sometimes business.
Nice. I don't think we've really ever discussed that with any of the artists,
so either.
And this is our 138th episode. So you're the first one who've talked exercise, but yeah, I think that's really important. And I'm glad that we discussed it a little bit,
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I was, you guys have this, I have this intense anxiety every day. Like I wake up with it. Do you guys experience anything like that?
I experience it at night when I'm trying to go to sleep.
When you're going to sleep?
Yeah. My mind won't shut off. In fact, I've had anxiety in the past when I was working on my master's, a lot of anxiety. Yeah. But last night I had, and which was weird, is like I could breathe, but in my head, I felt like there was some kind of difficulty, and it was just mental. So I had to get out of bed, walked around, went outside, took some deep breaths, kind of did some social media, kind of just scanning of, Instagram and stuff like that. And then I went back to bed, but I was able to fall asleep. But yeah, anxiety kind of, a lot of it has to deal recently with more probably stress related than anything, but yeah.
You've got some stuff going on.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, at least you can, you can make a connection to things that are going on in your life that make sense, right? Like it makes sense that I'm going to be anxious about this, but I don't have anything in my life that I should be anxious about.
So how does it manifest in you? You say you wake up with anxiety.
Yeah, it always happens in the early hours of the morning. And often I'll wake up from some dream that has real intense emotional, negative anxiety, anxious impact. And even if I don't remember my dreams, I'll wake up just feeling anxious. Sometimes I feel it throughout my body, your body tenses up. Sometimes I'll wake up and I'm just depressed. this has been going on for almost 10 years now. So
Wow.
I've tried everything. And the thing is, like, it just happens every day. So I know once I have coffee and I get up and I start doing my thing, I'm totally fine. But it's the same cycle literally every day. So I've been trying to figure out how to make it go away, or why is it happening. And but the meditation and exercise is like the thing that seems to help the most, and it's the calming of the mind. And but I am finding that I don't think I'm alone out there. I think a lot of people are experiencing it.
Yeah. And what's funny is I went to the doctor one time. This is when it was really bad. And I would get these anxiety attacks where I really felt like I was struggling breathing. But in my mind, I knew, like, you're fine. You can breathe. There's no reason why you can't breathe. And I would go outside and that would help. And so I went to the doctor hoping for a pill that he could, like, take the edge off. I said, I just need something to take the edge off. And he's like, well, how are you coping with it now? So I told him, like, I would get up, I would go outside, I would breathe. I would convince myself that just slow down. Everything will be fine. You'll get through this. And he said, well, it sounds like you're managing it well.
That's a good doctor. Yeah. I can't go down the road of medicine. I won't do it.
Oh my God. I was just looking for something to take that, like, little edge off.
Yeah.
But
maybe just more of that then, huh?
But he was like, you're managing it fine. I'm like, dang, why not? You just caused me more anxiety. Well, man, that's tough. And I guess I've been experiencing it for a while. A lot of mine, I think, is stress related, and
Yeah.
Todd could attest to that. I need to just chill the hell out. But yeah, it's really can be debilitating. And I consider my stuff, like, pretty mild. So I can't imagine somebody, because there are people, like, they can't function because of anxiety. So, at least you found some coping mechanism, whether it's coffee and exercise with maybe a little bit of meditation, but crazy.
Yeah. Well, it just irks me that there's no reason for it. If I had something, that would make sense, but
maybe you need to go to psychotherapy and just talk through it.
I haven't tried that, but I've definitely gone to some more metaphysical sort of solutions.
Okay.
It's just been actually I love that kind of stuff. So I think that's almost a hobby for me.
Okay.
Consciousness, anything related to consciousness and things that are outside of our linear way of living, I guess, or
so
material.
Have you listened to any Sam Harris?
Yep, I have. In fact,
Okay.
There was the conversation he had about free will.
Mm-hmm.
That I love that, because I always thought that sure we have free will, and then have you heard that conversation where he breaks it down? Like, you take a thought and you keep going deeper, like, well, where did that come from? Where did that come from? And you get this point, like, where did that come from? That wasn't my idea. And, like, we don't have free will. And it kind of I loved it because it completely challenged one of the parameters of my life. Like, we have free will. We can choose how we live our lives. But then if you think about it, it's where did that thought come from? And you kind of wonder, like, maybe we don't have free will. So I don't know. I love stuff like that. So
he has a whole app, with meditation, and I haven't really delved on that side of listened to a lot of his lectures, but from my understanding, they're really good. I did I was driving, Todd's heard this story, so I apologize, Todd, but I was driving through back from Sisseton, which is an 8-hour drive, and it was really bad weather. And I put him on, and he was convinced that he was walking through this meditation with this guy that doesn't believe in meditation, right? And he said, let me do this exercise with you. And so I was driving and I was doing what he was saying. He said, like, close your eyes. So I closed my eyes for just a moment. But I would, and I would listen to him talk, and I would breathe when he was saying breathe, and he was explaining what he was doing. And and I'm usually kind of anxious driving in inclement weather and at night. And the whole trip back was like total zone. Like, I was just chilling, and it was like, and it was just like 5 minutes that he did this, but the rest of the trip was so just chill, even though the weather was crap.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
I know he's helped a lot of people. He's got this 10-minute free thing online
Mm.
that I listen to. And like you, it really seems to, every time it immediately calms me down. Like
Mm.
there's definitely, so I haven't gotten his app yet. I'm trying, like I mentioned that other app that I'm checking out now, but
Yeah.
I think there's an angst with a lot of people, and a lot of people are searching for that kind of resolution or calm. But that's cool. Yeah.
Yeah. And Todd does yoga,
Yeah.
or has. I don't know if he's currently doing it, but what's
I'm
your
not
experience,
currently doing
Todd?
it, but I'll tell you what, I'm going to get back into it because I know how good my body felt.
Yeah.
And I didn't do anything intense. I did all yin yoga for the most part, and which is very low impact on your body. But yoga is more about meditation than anything else, and I know what it did for me. It was like night and day
Yeah.
because I can get pretty ramped up myself. I don't ever have the problem that Wes does as far as falling asleep. In fact, my wife hates me because I literally will put my head on the pillow and boom, I'm done. I'm out. I'm snoring, whatever. She's like, I hate you.
Through the night, you don't wake up a lot.
It's a rarity that I have a sleepless night. I had a sleepless night the other night because my son was sick. And you know how it is when you have a child that's sick,
Yeah.
even though he's 18 and he still lives at home. Um, I was concerned. He did not feel good. And so I got up with him and then I couldn't go back to sleep after I kind of got him situated. But yeah, it's rare. It's rare. Like last night, I slept like a baby. In fact, I didn't even want to get out of bed. I was so comfortable this morning. I literally had to like peel myself out of bed. It was 9 o'clock before I got out of bed.
That's a good
God.
feeling.
Oh, I hate you, Todd. I didn't sleep worth
I'm
a
like,
shit last night, by the way. I was up
well,
probably
dude,
3 or 4 times.
Yeah.
so the simple exercise that Sam Harris did that you listened to, why don't you
Yeah,
just
I do
put
that
that on repeat on your go-to? Like
I
if it
should.
helped you that one time, I'm sure it'll help you again,
You're right. No, I think
No,
it
it
would.
is. And I do. I guess I just right now, this other one's helping me just as effectively. So I just think I'm going to try that out for a while. It's not that I'm closed to doing other meditation apps or Sam Harris's apps, but I just, right now, this one that I've found too, I'm really enjoying. And they have, like 5 different meditations, and then there's yogas too, like yoga I haven't really done many of those, but they sound like what you mentioned. I don't know the term, the yen or zen. They're short. They're very much more meditative as opposed to a workout. Some of the you go to
Bikram or whatever.
yeah, and I don't. That's the other thing. Like going out to eat, the same thing for going out anywhere to exercise in any kind of like facility is. I just won't do it.
it's unappealing, right?
Yes, I need to be at home following a video or something. The process of getting in my car, getting dressed, or changing your clothes once you get to the studio. And especially, I was doing the hot yoga for a while, and you just can't. You have to change your clothes after a session like that, and just like the whole process is like 2.5, 3 hours, and I'm like, I can't do this.
Yeah. No, and I'm not advocating for Sam Harris. I just know that he's not throwing us any money to promote him. So
Right. No. I've heard that he's helped a lot of people. So yeah,
Yeah.
same thing. I don't have anything against him. And
no.
and he's one that, you mentioned meditation and his name almost always comes up. Which is great. If he's helping people, that's great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think it's great to explore things, but if you find something that works for you, like you really are digging this app that you just recently found, like Wes, the Sam Harris thing.
Yeah.
Like if it works for you, man, stick with it.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what screwed me up with the whole yoga thing is COVID, because the studio that Barb and I, my wife, were going to, they shut it was COVID, so they shut everything down, but then the studios just went out of business.
Yeah.
And I had favorite teachers that I really loved going to. And, it wasn't, it was time out of my day, but because I have flexibility because of what I do, I could go do a class with him like middle of the day, no problem, and it was a pleasant drive to the studio and all the way around. So now I got to go out. It's like people that go to church all the time, right? Like you find this great church and you're really into it, and all of a sudden it implodes, and then you're back at square one again, and then you're church hopping for a while, to find your people. And, and that's part of it, because I'm like you, Jill. I guess I have a little bit of anxiety and, exercising with a bunch of other people. And so I'd found this place that I loved and I enjoyed going to. And then all of a sudden it just poof, it was gone. And I was like, and doing a video is just not the same for me. So I gotta find a new studio. So if you're listening out there and you have a yoga studio that you really love, send me an email. I'm on the search. I'm on the hunt. I want to talk about a couple pieces because I love horses like yourself. Obviously, maybe not to the extent that you love horses, but I think they're just beautiful, beautiful animals. And I know Wes feels the same way, and he grew up around horses. So this piece here, I absolutely adore this piece, Bones and Trace. I love this piece. There's something about it. I love when you're driving down the road and you see horses out in the pasture and they're communing together, loving on each other, whatever they're doing. There's something about that just gives me joy. How old of a piece is this? Oh, 2019?
Yeah. Yeah. So that's pretty new. And I painted those. They're like buds. Like anyone that knows horses, and I don't claim that I do, but I'm around the wranglers and they know horses, and they'll tell you that they all have, like dogs and people, they have unique personalities, and they have their favorite buddies and cliques. And so these two are BFFs, I guess you could say. And I've painted them several times. And so Bone is the white horse, appropriately named Bone, and Trace is the sorrel. And they're from Chico, which is the Colorado Springs Ranch Lands property. And Bone is I think, treasured horse of one of the wranglers there, who I think actually is no longer there, the wrangler. But they're just, I have a lot of references of those two just hanging out together.
And this is 40 by 30 inches. Is this kind of in the realm of size that you typically work in?
I really range. I'll do these tiny little studies. And often the studies are they don't go out of my studio, but occasionally I'll frame one up and put it out there on the market. And that's sort of the medium large size here with Bone and Trace. But I'll go really large, do one or two really large paintings a year, like 60 by 80 inches or so. So really the whole range of sizes. And when I'm looking at a photo reference, I can usually just intuitively, I'll say, oh, that needs to be this size. That's not very structural or practical, which is great because it's an intuitive thing.
So do you paint smaller versions of the same painting ever, or do you start small and work big? Or
so if I'm going to do a really large painting, I definitely will do a smaller version of it. So I don't want to spend that time on a large painting without knowing pretty well how it's going to end up. So I will do a small one. But generally for a medium or small size, I won't do a small painting per se, but I'll do color studies and a drawing of it first.
Okay.
In most cases.
I noticed on some of your drawings that you gridded out. Do you grid it out when you're painting too, or is that just a drawing technique that you use?
It's mostly I'll do it on the sketches, and it's just a drawing tool, a measurement tool to keep things from getting too out of proportion. And I'm starting to do it that way with my canvases, where I'll also grid the canvas out, because I think it promotes better drawing. But typically my process is I'll actually project it onto my canvas because it's a huge time saver.
Mm-hmm.
And if I have a show where I need so many paintings coming up, it just affords me more time to focus on the painting and not the measuring part of drawing because it's just really slow. So, but I do think you sacrifice a little bit of quality when you do that because just the natural mistakes and exaggerations that happen when you drawing freehand are, I think, a better way to go.
Mm.
So that's actually one of those New Year's resolutions I make every year. Okay, no more projecting. You're going to completely freehand it. But then I get under some deadline and I'm like, damn it. I don't have time to draw it. So,
yeah.
But yeah, I don't, it's a great tool, but I don't promote it. I don't recommend it, the whole projecting, but like, what do they say? Do as I say, not what I do.
Right. Do as I say, not as I do. Yeah. Well, this is a beautiful piece. I love this a lot. I love it's so calming to look at. I can imagine, as big as it is, that whole 40 by 30, just like standing, 5 feet away from it would be very like calming and meditative just because that's how they appear to be. So,
yeah. And I do remember that day very much because it was just hanging out with them. And of course it was those two, but there were probably 30 other horses surround in the same vicinity. And I was probably out there for, 3 or 4 hours, just hanging out with them and sketching and photographing. And, even looking at this painting, it brings me back to that day. And, I'm petting these guys and observing them. And, so it's makes me feel like I'm with them again too.
Mm-hmm.
Another piece that I really love is this piece here. This is cattle roundup. And I love how you've captured the scene. I feel like I'm there. I can feel the motion, the riders riding by me. And it's magnificent.
Thank you.
I take it this is also at that particular ranch?
That's at Chico Basin again. Yep. That was during a cattle branding. That was an experience. That was so cool. I've been to a few, but this one was really the first time where they let us get right in there with them. Like they had a fairly small pen where they rounded all the cattle into. And, it's sort of like ranch lands, forgive me, it was a little bit like Yellowstone where I know they don't like that. Yellowstone is such a like Hollywood exaggeration of some of the things that happen. However, there are a lot of parallels that are true to life based off of my city girl experience of visiting a ranch. And this was one of them where all the neighboring ranches come in and they all help each other brand the cattle for the day. Sometimes it takes several days. And, you have people, wranglers lassoing and catching a calf, and then they bring it to the center, and there's like 3 to 5 wranglers honing in on this cattle, and they're doing what they need to give it a shot, they need to test. I'm not actually really sure everything that they do, but within a couple minutes they do everything they need to do to take care of this calf and brand it, and then they let it go, and then the next one comes in and they all gather and they address this little calf, and then they let it go, and it's just like this constant active process of getting these calves branded, and it's chaotic, and it was just so cool, and teamwork, and the horses working, and amazingly I didn't get run over by an angry mama cow. And it was a huge rush, and just to watch these wranglers and cowboys and cowgirls so eloquently handling these animals, and it was such a cool experience.
That's something I've never experienced. I'd love to see that firsthand. It sounds intense, and it sounds really amazing actually to witness these people doing this work.
Yeah, that's hard work, but but there's also such joy in it. They love just doing it.
Yeah, it's an interesting experience. I used to do a lot of that kind of stuff when I was young because my uncles had ranches and my parents' friends had ranches. So, everything from castration to dehorning to, branding and all that kind of, and vaccination. It's really interesting, and how different people, some run them through chutes, other do the kind of the open range thing like you're talking, where they just have them in a small pen and you're roping them and dragging them to the people that are branding, and the smell of the brand, and the vaccination, and there's all, it's just a really interesting sensory experience, both visually, auditory, and smell, and it's so for some people would be completely appalled, but if you go there with an open mind, it's a really interesting experience.
Yeah. And their goal too is just to get it done quick, because imagine it's a little stressful on those poor little calves, but they make it as easy as they possibly can for the animals.
Yeah.
They do really care about their critters.
Well, it's money for them, and it's a sentient being. So they, I think a lot of people care about it. Yeah. I'm sure there's some that, they don't, they just view them as animals, and, and just money at its own level. But I think a lot of cowboys especially respect the herd and, the whole idea of the lifestyle and everything. So, yeah. It's cool that you captured this. It's really fun. It's a nice piece. Thanks.
Do you know what I really want to paint right now? Because this one sort of does it, is horse butts. I love horse butts. Their muscles right there on the haunches. I have a few pieces I'm contemplating.
Well, the muscle structures are so amazing, aren't they?
Yeah.
They're such powerful animals.
Yeah. Just a lot of cool shapes in that butt there.
They really are amazing creatures. You're once again part of the Coors Western Art Exhibit and Sale. How many years have you been in the Coors Show?
See, my first year, I believe, was 2009.
Wow.
So what is that? Don't ask an artist to do math.
So
like 14 years.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's been a really great show for myself personally, but I know it's been great for most of the artists that are in it.
Did you get in the first year that you applied?
Oh, no. I think I tried. My memory is 7 years. I applied every year. I would go every year, not just to the opening, or not the reception, but the public, stock show ticket price. And the 1 year I wasn't going to submit anymore, or I think I had a lot of deadlines, and I just felt like maybe it wasn't the show for me, because I had tried so many years to get in. And then Rose called me up and invited me in. So
it's amazing how that can happen, right? You apply every year. So I want to talk to you about this. So the whole rejection thing. So how crushing was it? And then how did you get over it? Or maybe it wasn't crushing at all. Maybe the expectation was, I may never get into this, but I'm going to try. So what was the feeling like trying and then being rejected?
Well, I guess that was just part of the process for me, was submitting to shows, and I never really took it personally. I just felt like, well, there's a lot of variables that behind the scenes, like in some situations, it depends on the juror. They depend on what they ate that day, I guess I just never took it personally. And I just felt like, well, I try to put in a good effort, and maybe it's just not meant to be. That door has never opened for me, but there's several others out there that will or have. And so I just sort of always looked at it that way, that if it's meant to be, it'll happen. And if not, something else or better will come by.
Yeah, it's interesting, right? Because I think for some people, like, I think just like you, just like I apply, I don't get it, that's fine. But other people, it could be crushing. Especially if you think this is exactly what they want. I paint exactly what contemporary Western art is. I should be a shoo-in, and then you have these high expectations, and then it doesn't happen. It could be crushing, and like trying to navigate out of that sense. So it's interesting to hear how you managed it, and as far as your expectation.
Well, I think now too, more so than maybe when I was starting out, but definitely I feel that tension or disappointment or any negative feeling is actually a gift, because it forces you to try something different or go a different direction. And how many stories have you heard like that, where someone is trying to achieve something and they get rejected, maybe even horribly, but what happens as a result to that is they find something even more beautiful and enriching. So I really do think that, well, it's the important part of the process of doing anything, is the negative aspect of something.
Right.
I think it's really cool that you just stuck with it. And obviously, prior to talking with Rose, really didn't know how it worked. But I think people get, really upset if they don't get in that first year and then they just hang it up. But the reality of it is there's only a small amount of artists that are new to the show each year, and it's a curated show. So, it all is based on, they're trying to facilitate a scholarship. So they also got to pay attention to who the collectors and buyers, and they're there to move the art, to help fund these scholarships. And so you really got to know they really got to know their audience. So you can't take it personally, and just like yourself, you might just hit it at the right time, the right year, where that's what they're really looking for. Tastes change, things change, and you just never know. So you just got to keep with it and don't be disappointed that, like you said, you took it as a way to, maybe there's a door that'll open to something even better, or, it forced you to kind of like engage with your work maybe a little bit more and figure out, okay, what do I need to do here? Or is it even, what I want to do,
Yeah, exactly. It may be, you may end up becoming like professional baseball player or something. Who knows? Something totally different. I've had the opportunity to jury a few shows too. And I think that's really helpful if anyone has, if you're an artist at any level, if you have an opportunity to actually jury a show, because it really gives you that perspective where there really are a lot of variables, especially if there's more than one person making the decisions, because then like you might think, such and such artist would be like perfect for the show, but the other people helping you decide or make that decision, like what art pieces or what artists are we going to have in a show, they're going to say, well, they're great, but they don't really fit the parameters, or we already have another artist that's fitting that. That's why you can't take it personally, because there's just so many things that don't really have to, like exactly what you're talking about, Todd. There's certain things that the people that are selecting the art or the artists have to make their decisions based off of, and it's not that simple usually.
It's never simple. So
right.
Talk about what the Coors Western Art Exhibit and Sale has done for you as an artist.
Yeah, definitely. I think it was one of the turning points of my career. It's a very prestigious show, and just getting into it did two big things for me. One, it got me into Astoria Gallery, and it also opened up a lot of doors for other Western themed shows. And that in itself just really started to, my focus became definitely more Western, because even up to that point, that first year I got into the core show, I was still doing sort of a lot of different subject matter. And in fact, I was veering more towards doing more architectural pieces. And that getting into that show was kind of a hard right turn away from architectural and more into the agricultural Western horses themed. So it really changed my subject matter and it into that whole niche of Western art.
Are you glad? Obviously you are, but I'm going to ask it anyway. So are you glad of the right turn? Are you happy? Do you miss the architectural? I know you can put some of those elements into what you're working on. Do you feel like you're stuck at all? Like you can't move out of it?
No, I don't. In fact, I tried to paint an architectural piece and it just was a total disaster, which I couldn't figure out because, we talked about I paint like I'm thinking abstractly. It's like, why should it make a difference that I'm doing a city scene? But, I still don't really know, but I think part of what's happened is the relationship I've built with ranch lands has impacted me in a way that is so personal now that that's really what I'm keep wanting to return to. And there are always moments where I think, okay, maybe this phase is done. Maybe maybe won't go visit the ranch this year, or maybe I need to, something else will perk my interest. I'm like, well, maybe I should go there. But there's always something that draws me back, whether it's like they offer a new workshop or, Sophie and Amy and Stephanie start coming to the gatherings or I connect with the particular person at the ranch. It's like a new friendship or a deeper level of understanding a particular person or the animals. So there's the draw for me keeps increasing and getting more personal.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't regret it at all. So then I think the core show and the ranch together have sort of really solidified that connection.
It sounded like a stupid question, but I love the way you answered it. It's part of you.
There's no stupid questions.
Well, an obvious question, like, of course you enjoy what you're doing. So, but I appreciate the answer because I think it was well said.
I agree. And if you hadn't asked that question, Wes, I was going to ask it. So there you go, buddy. I want to talk about
stupid. No, just kidding.
Well, we share the same brain. So yeah.
Right. Sorry.
I want to share with you one more piece that I want to talk about. This is a piece that Wes really likes from the core show, Palomino Pal. Talk about this piece.
So this I spoke about a little bit when Court and Rose did all of her artist interviews, and I was telling her that this is very representative of the transition that I'm feeling that we've talked about, where I feel like I don't have any like my goals and like my direction is completely open-ended right now, which is not the way the last 20 years have been. So this piece is, you see, it's a lot less tight than any of the other pieces in even the core show. But I love it because it's kind of right in that one show, you're seeing a transition from me moving away from the more tighter and rendered paintings to something a little bit, even to something more abstract and eliminating more of the representational components of my reference. And this is where I'm feeling pulled to move towards, is to do more of this kind of stuff.
That's awesome. That's got to be exciting.
Yeah. It really, any new like shift in the process is always exciting. I mean, it could be anything like, I don't know, maybe you look at another artist's work and there's something like the way they used a color or a line or something, and you're like, oh, that's really cool. And then you like incorporate it in your own way in your work, and either it works or it doesn't, it's like a game changer, right? It changes the direction of your work. And or you have an accident, maybe you spill something on a painting or you drop a painting and something happened to it that you wouldn't have done yourself, that like opens up all these other possibilities. So, and hopefully that's the way it always goes. You're constantly having those experiences that can continue to force you to move forward and grow with your work.
Yeah, it's a beautiful piece. I love this one a lot. Once again, it has that, the subject matter very similar. The two horses, the one's got his head on the other one, and it's just got a calming effect. And I really like the looseness of what this is. And I wouldn't have been able to probably pick that out by just thinking about it, but I'm glad you pointed that out, because I think you're right. I think it adds there's something to it that's different than the other ones. And I thought, and even that when we were talking about them, I was like, this one, I really like this. And maybe it's because it's not like the others, and I just do really like this piece.
Thanks.
Yeah, that's exactly what you said when we were looking at pieces together before the podcast. You were like, I really like this. It's very different from the rest of the stuff. So
yeah,
I'm glad you talked about it.
Yeah.
Thank you. Who is your biggest support?
I would say my family. God bless them for putting up with me. No, they're amazing. Yeah. My immediate family and like my in-laws are great, and my parents are great. And yeah, they've just been supportive, and I know I can get a little difficult sometimes. So
What?
yeah. That I guess is probably one of my bigger character flaws.
Do you get most of your sales through your galleries?
I would say yes until 2022. Definitely a hard year in terms of gallery sales.
Really? So this year has been a little bit difficult?
Yeah. Yeah. Teaching has been teaching was always sort of secondary to income, but it's almost equal in 2022. I made as much from teaching as painting sales.
You think that's because people are holding on their money because they've been talking about this damn recession for the past year that we're still waiting for it to completely unfold?
Yeah, I think it's related to economy. I did have a conversation with one of my gallery owners because I was concerned that, is it just me? Like, is my work suddenly not being desired anymore? And she says, no, it's not you. It's happening across the board in her experience. So I don't know. I've talked to some artists and they've had great sales in 2022. But there's plenty that have been struggling as well. So I hope it's not just me, but if it is, right, it's one of those things where, well, what do I need to do about this? If this isn't working, then what else can I do? What other doors are open? This one's closing.
Right.
Well, it's all part of the ride. And we just talked about a piece that, you see yourself going in that direction and it's evolving into something else. So, you just never know, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Got to keep your options open.
I see that you sell some prints. How does that work? Is that a good thing? Is it lucrative to sell prints?
It started out great. And then I lost my Instagram account. So I kind of feel like I lost my market for that. And I also do, so those are like small runs or limited edition prints through the lithograph. So I thought I'd try into that. And part of the reasoning was, as we talked about, the soft income. And then because I was building a decent following on social media and I was getting requests for it, and I wanted to have a product that was a lower dollar item that more people could afford. Because, buying an original oil painting is not inexpensive. So I wanted to offer something that people that couldn't afford or original could afford. The first time I released it, it went great. And then I didn't really promote it. And then I lost my Instagram account. So I'm not going to give up on it. I like the idea of having prints to sell, but I also want to offer intaglio printing. Is that how you say it? Intaglio? How do they say it?
Intaglio.
Intaglio. But are you guys familiar with that process?
A little bit.
Wes probably is.
A little bit. It's very similar to how they do like money and stuff like that.
Well, I don't know, because I don't know how they print money, but basically you create a plate and there's different the copper plate or zinc plate. There's solar plates, which is it's just the medium I like to use. But basically, create a plate and then you ink it up and you run it through a press. And some artists that do it a lot will hire someone to help them run their editions. But for me, I do each one myself. So they're very small editions. Every time you have to ink up the plate, run it through, then you ink it up again, you run it through. And I do editions. I think the biggest one I've done is 12. But each one is hand pulled by the artist, in my case, myself. And then you sell that edition. And you can make different. So I might have one image, but I may make 2 different editions, like a different paper, a different ink color. So that's the other product I'd like to offer as a smaller dollar item. But they're kind of the midway between a lithograph print and an original one-of-a-kind drawing or painting, because I can do a small run. I don't think I have anything up on my website right now.
I think they're kind of like what Suomi does when she was doing, you remember the Gutzon Borglund collection that she showed us?
Oh, yeah.
It's very similar to that. I think that falls in that whole intaglio printing process.
Yeah. And if you go back into history, Albert Dürer did a bunch of, I think there was a show in Pueblo of just his intaglio etchings. Etching is like another form of intaglio.
Yeah, acid etching.
Have you guys talked to Mark Lunning? He'd be a great person for you guys to chat to.
What's his last name?
Lunning, Lunning. He's a master printmaker. He used to teach at the Art Students League. I'm not sure. I think he still teaches there. He had Open Press, I believe, was his company and studio in Denver, but he sold it and moved to a smaller town in eastern Colorado but then now he's back in Denver and he's setting up shop again. So, but if you want to talk about printmaking, man, he's the guy to talk to. That's who I learned from.
He just went on the list. So
yeah, he's great. You're gonna love him. He's so knowledgeable and so good. He had a show recently at is it Space Gallery? It's on Santa Fe, like the 400, 500 block.
Yeah, that sounds like Space Gallery.
Mike, who's the owner? Mike something.
Oh, Burnett.
Is that Mike Burnett?
Michael Burnett.
Yeah, Michael Burnett. Yeah.
He had a show there recently. But yeah.
I have a few more business questions, and then we're going to leave off for the evening because I know that it's starting to get late and you're starting to fade a little bit. How do you go about pricing your work?
So the advice I got and the advice I still use today is going to galleries or wherever people might be shopping for art these days, right? A lot of it's virtual, and seeing how other artists are pricing their work. Look for artists that you feel are about the same place in their career in terms of how long they've been doing it, the quality of their work, what kind of shows they're getting into or where their work is being viewed, and look at their prices. So try and find someone that you feel is that I'm talking generally is comparable to what you're doing, and base your prices kind of off of that. And then I guess that's how I do it. And the one rule I give myself is don't ever lower your prices. Like once you give yourself a little raise, do everything you can not to backtrack. Like you don't want to price your paintings too high where they're overpriced, because then you kind of put yourself in a bad position where you're going to have to suddenly lower your prices. So it kind of almost looks like you devalue yourself. So you want to this is how I did. I just gradually raise my prices, and it's all based off of them selling really well. Then I give myself a raise.
And do you do this every year, or does it just depend on how things are going?
Typically I would do it about once a year, but it was also reflective of the fact that my art was selling well. So like, for example, 22 was a real slow year, so I'm definitely not raising my prices, but I'm not going to lower them.
Gotcha. Yeah, lowering sounds like would be a really bad idea. Like that
Yeah.
doesn't make sense to me at all. But
Yeah.
yeah. So where does an original start for you, and what does it go up to?
Yeah, so I do it about a square inch price. So the smaller the painting, the higher the per square inch it is. So I have actually got this little chart or a Excel file that I refer to. So there's like small range paintings, and let's say I think the smallest painting I'll sell is like 3 by 3 inches, and I don't know what per inch it is. It's like, I don't know. I'm just kind of pulling this out of my head. Maybe it's like $20 an inch at that size. But a large, huge painting is more like a dollar per inch, because proportionately, if I were to do it per square inch, probably the same thing as a 3 by 3 inch painting. If that per square inch was the same for a like 80 by 60, it would be way too expensive. So as the paintings get bigger, the dollar per inch gets smaller. Does that make sense?
Yep. It's a tiered process. Yep.
When I try and proportionally, like I'll do a small drawing, and then when I decide I want to make it into a painting, the proportions have to be the same. So I use algebra to do that. And
no way. I thought nobody used algebra out of high school.
I know it's a real simple equation, but it's easy for me because I do it all the time. But I would bring this to a workshop to try and teach the students how to proportionally enlarge their paintings, and they're all looking at me like, what are you talking about? And then finally one student's like, they have web pages you can go to that'll do it for you.
Today we're going to solve for X.
That's such a brilliant, easy solution. But
what I do on the one side, I have to do on the opposite side.
Another student taught me you take your small reference and then you place it on the corner of your paper and you run a ruler diagonally through the corner. Do you know what I'm talking about? Mm-hmm. To get the bigger size.
Okay, yeah.
It's funny because like these such easy solutions to enlarging the proportions of something. I was trying to teach art students how to do algebra. It didn't go very well.
Love it. Algebra for artists.
Yeah.
You have another exhibition that you're part of that opens the 30th of this month and runs through April 19th in Clarksville, Tennessee. Talk a little bit about that real quick, if you would.
Yeah, I don't actually know that much about it. Other than the theme is equine artists, and the curator approached me about a year ago to submit something, and I thought, well, there aren't that many just equine art shows that I know of or been invited to, so I thought it'd be a good opportunity to show my work in another part of the country. And I like that it was all horse themed. And but it's interesting because previous to this particular show, you usually get a really detailed, we need this then, and they send that out right away. And like as soon as you accept to do the show, you have all that information. Then you get all these reminders as the dates approach. And these guys are so relaxed. They're, they kind of give you what you need when you need it, and it's very minimal. And I kind of like it. It just I keep complaining that things are so complex. I want my life to be more simple. So I really appreciate their approach on the simplicity of it. But it's also, we're not required to sell anything either. So I have one piece in there that I pull out of my own collection that I'm going to show. And then the other one will be for sale.
Okay. So 2 pieces total.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Bone and Trace are in it again, actually.
Oh, really?
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Right on. Anything else that you're looking forward to in 2023 that we haven't already talked about or that you may have coming up?
I do have one other workshop with the Scottsdale Art School. Another online opportunity. It's 3 days, 3 consecutive Thursdays, about 4 hours each, and it's all on just color. Figured I'd focus on color.
That sounds awesome.
Yeah, I'm excited. Again, it's something new content for me to create a course for. So I'm in the midst of preparing that right now.
Well, sounds like it's going to be busy for you this year.
Yeah, I always think it's going to be a slow and easy year, and it never is. I'm very good for that. That's a good thing.
Yeah.
I got one last question, and then we will let you go. So who would you like to hear on the podcast if you were to choose anyone?
I did mention Mark Lunning. I think you guys would do Sophie's. She would say she doesn't feel like she's articulate, but she's really good at getting to the point briefly, and she's very witty. I think she'd be great. And another favorite artist that I mentioned is David Grossman. And again, there's so many, those are just two that I'm sort of fixated on right now, but there's so many that I admire, and I'm going to kick myself later. Why didn't I talk about so-and-so? But there really are so many amazing artists out there.
You're absolutely right. And Sophie and David have been on the list for a while. So
yeah, Wes has been crazy about Sophie for 2 years now, or 3, whatever the year I first saw that first one.
If I don't get Sophie on the podcast this year, Wes is going to leave me.
I'll never leave
get
you,
a different
Todd.
Partner.
I'll never leave you.
There's one other artist. She's young and really good, figurative, and I love her work because she really combines the abstract with the representational work so beautifully. I think she probably veers a little bit more towards the abstract. But Zoe Frank, maybe you've already talked to her. She's pretty big, so I think she'd be good too. I think her work's amazing.
Yeah, her name has come through a number of times, so on the list. All right. We got our homework to do, Wes.
All right.
Jill, it's been an absolute joy to spend time with you. Thank you so much for taking time out of your evening away from your family. Just so appreciate it. And you did a lot of talking tonight for an introvert.
Oh, I can talk art. I love talking art.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah, it was a pleasure. It was, I love your stuff. I think you're amazing. Love the subject matter, obviously. And I'm looking forward to, I'll be there. I'm going to go hopefully to the Coors show on the 7th, and hopefully we'll be there to see your work if it hasn't all sold. So,
okay. Well, really, I really am so grateful for you guys and what you're doing. And Wes, make sure you edit me out to the point where I really sound brilliant. Because I
sound brilliant. You will. You will.
It's your editing that's going to make it sound really good.
You did great. You did great.
You're awesome. You're awesome.
Again, don't forget to check out Jill's work at her website, jillsoukup.com, and do yourself a favor, get out to the National Western Stock Show this month and see the Coors Western Art Exhibit and Sale, where you can see some of Jill's work in person. And if you happen to be in the Clarksville, Tennessee area between January 30th and April 9th, go see Art of the Horse at the Customs House Museum and Cultural Center. As usual, I have all this information and more in this week's episode notes. For the Tenant Podcast, have a happy new year. I'm Todd Pearson.
And I'm Wes Brown.
Have a great week.